Welcome back to another episode of our Express course. And in today's lesson, we are going to set up the TypeScript configuration. And we are talking about some important aspects about Express web server, but also about the course in general. First of all, the important thing about the course is that I am will be uploading these files, hold the project in a remote repository called GitHub. Maybe you are familiar with GitHub or not, but doesn't matter. It's just like a place where I can save my code and you can watch the different between different episodes. Well, you can see the differences between episodes. And the idea it's, well, we are not going to set up the remote repository in this episode. Maybe in the following episode we are going to set up that, because TypeScript is something extensive, is some extensive. And about that, I prefer to upload, maybe for people that know what I'm talking about, but people who doesn't know, don't worry, it's something that will be so useful to understand the code base between different lesson, and it's about the branches. I'm going to create a branch between different episodes so you can see a specific code base depending on the episode that you need, because maybe, I don't know, you are in the 10th episode of the course and you need a specific section because maybe I got grown and maybe I don't show. I'll try to make the course perfect as possible, but in some scenarios you need to copy something, and maybe if you go to the GitHub repository you only have one base of code, and maybe it's the final base code or the base code from the, I don't know, 50 episode, and you need something that maybe in following episode has been changed. And the idea is that you get the specific snippet of code depending on the episode. So maybe when you go to, well, in the following episode, when the GitHub repository is available or will be available, you can go to the branch. Maybe I am going to tell you how to go to a specific branch, and you are going to find the specific code base from that course, because yeah, it's obvious. If this section just right there, I already know is pretty simple, but imagine for a second that you need copy this section. It's pretty obvious that this section won't be exist in 10 episodes, in the following 10 episodes. So it's very obvious that if you need this section because you are in the second episode, well, it's understandable that you need that code base from the second episode and not the code base for the 20 or 50 episode. Maybe this is pretty obvious, but people who make courses doesn't apply this principle, and it's pretty annoying because you have to go back, rewind, go 10 minutes ago or 10 minutes later, and you don't find the section that you need, and it's pretty annoying. So I have that in mind. So let's start, and maybe I make some notes because notes are pretty important, even more when you are learning, or it's the first time you see these concepts just right there. I'm going to remove these comments because I'm not a big fan of explain theory in comments. The comments are useful, but for explain the code, not explain theory. For the theory, I already created a markdown note in the project structure, and this file, it will be also available in the remote repository, so don't worry about that. Maybe I just make the the hint or the acceleration, I don't know, about the topics that we will be seeing, or yeah, seeing between the different episodes. And we already seen HTTP methods, the URI, the URL, the path, and the endpoint, the difference between these things, or these entities, or this stuff. You remember the URI is the whole direction that includes the protocol, the extension, maybe www or triple W is from the World Wide Web, maybe the global internet, the domain name, the in this case the path, and maybe extra information that we are going to see in future episodes. And after that, we have the URL that includes less information. The path just includes the last information, or maybe the resource that we need. And the endpoint is pretty similar to the path, but the endpoint used to use like to give information about the HTML method that we are going to use. So this is pretty useful, for example, to create comments. And in this case, well, it's pretty easy to understand that we are mapping the root direction to the method get. But in some scenarios, we don't know if we are inside a router, and you are going to see what is a router in the following episodes. And maybe you don't know if we are user, and after user, we see, I don't know, packages. And after that, this endpoint receives, I don't know, query params. So you need to receive an ID and make some verifications, and well, that's pretty important. So maybe, yeah, this is pretty simple, but for in the following episodes won't be simple at all, but I'm trying to make it simple. So let's start it with the lesson, and we're talking about TypeScript. Maybe some of you guys may thought that cover TypeScript at the beginning of the course could be a pretty hard, because if we don't understand how JavaScript works, we won't even know how TypeScript works. But don't worry, because in this course we are going to cover, first of all, the JavaScript part, and after that we are going to use TypeScript, so don't worry about it. And maybe TypeScript is just an extension that allows to improve the programming experience. But if we remove TypeScript, don't worry, because we have the same JavaScript base. It's interesting because once we are going to run TypeScript, web server Node.js doesn't understand what TypeScript is. And when we work with TypeScript, we just transpile that code to JavaScript code. So TypeScript is not like a new language, it's just an extension, because after we create the application, we go back to the JavaScript base code, and that's pretty nice. So we already have this one, but I want to show you this important page that I am going to share with you in the description. We have TypeScript, and as you can see, TypeScript is maybe to improve the typing. For example, JavaScript has the famous to be a pretty flexible, and in some scenarios that could be an advantage or could be a disadvantage. And as you can see in this example, we have a object that has the following properties, like, I'm trying to increase the size, has the following properties: first name, Angela; last name, Davis; role, professor. But what happens if we try to use the name attribute? As you can see, and you have a basic understanding and common sense, you see that the user object doesn't have the name attribute. But if you try to get into the attribute or get the attribute name, you will see this warning just right there. And this warning will be show you in your code editor, in my case Visual Studio Code, that I'm going to tell you about Visual Studio Code. Maybe something that I forgot to the last episode, so I think I have to record another first episode, but I don't care, it doesn't matter. If it's necessary, I will do it. And maybe, as you can see in the code editor, we will see this warning. And even when we try to compile the TypeScript code to JavaScript code, we will see this warning right there, because it's an extension, it's a tool that allows, hey, you are typing something wrong because it's supposed that you are using this object, but this object doesn't have this attribute, but you are trying to get into this attribute. So, man, help me, or something like that. So I don't know. It's something like yeah. Let's use this example just right there. Is well, we are going to use the REPL because it's not a big deal. I'm not going to create another project just for this specific example. And maybe let's execute the no REPL. You can also do this in Windows, so don't worry about it. Just try to open the PowerShell or command line and write node. If you don't have problem with the path, we are fine. Maybe I try to record another video also installing Node.js in Windows, because I know that there are a lot of people that use Windows even when they are starting learning something basic like JavaScript and Express. So maybe to make a more extensive Discord, I'm going to include that information, that specific episode. So once we are inside REPL, maybe I'm going to make the declaration. The REPL stands for read, evaluate, print, and loop. So let me include REPL just right there. And maybe it's just like a context or a scenario where we can execute JavaScript instructions at the time, or on real time. So it's read, evaluate, print, and loop. Is like, hey, send me what operation, the instruction that you want. I'm going to execute it like if we're running an Node.js program. So I'm going to, well, let's use this example just right there. So imagine for a second we have the const user equals, and thanks to that I can continue writing my object. So imagine for a second we have the first name, and for example is Christian, and maybe that's the end of my object. So we have the object. So I can use console log and print my object. And as you can see, we have first name Christian. Okay, that's nice. But what happens if I try to get the property first name? So let's get into the user first name. And as you can see, we have information. Yeah, Christian, this is pretty obvious, but what's the deal? So imagine for a second I wrote wrong first name, and I forgot the uppercase and use lowercase, and we send this instruction again. And as you can see, we have undefined, but we don't have warning, we don't have errors, nothing. And that's the deal with JavaScript. Maybe if you are not get used, or if you are not get familiar with, for example, a strict type language like C, C++, Java, maybe you don't understand what I'm talking about. But I want to show you that in that strict language, once we try to access to a specific attribute that doesn't exist, the language will explode, will blow out, because that doesn't exist and the program won't work. Yeah, JavaScript is flexible because even if the attribute doesn't exist, we're going to continue. And maybe that you already understand what I'm talking about at advantage and at disadvantage. So in these scenarios, we have some strategies that you are going to get familiar. Meanwhile, you see the course. For example, the basic one is using this operator, that is the chaining optional or something like that. Doesn't matter. In the future, we are going to cover this. And for example, if this value just right there doesn't exist, we are going to use this value over there. And as you can see, we have this value. Ignore this one because it's just the output from the console log, the execution itself. But the first one is important. So yeah, JavaScript is flexible, but also the standard or vanilla version give us tools that allows to avoid these strange behaviors. And even when the TypeScript didn't exist yet, we have some libraries that help us to, hey, how can improve my typing. Well, yeah, how can I improve my types or type validation? And yeah, there are interesting option. And but this option is just like in runtime environment. It's like when the program is executing. But the TypeScript is just like in the developing runtime. Well, the runtime doesn't exist. It's just like the developing flow is something that we are not going to use in the REPL because REPL doesn't know, and node at this time doesn't know what is TypeScript. I'm gonna give you an example. For example, you can create a variable in vanilla JavaScript in this way. For example, name Rizlo, and that's nice. But let's use a TypeScript operation like const name, and I'm going to tell to the inside quotation mark TypeScript that this variable is this variable has the type string, and send this instruction again. Well, I have to use another one because this is already create. And second, and as you can see, we have an error, and this is correct. Yeah, we have an error in this time, and the reason is because we are using a different syntax. It's just like JavaScript expressible, but if you talk a JavaScript in a Python way, the JavaScript will tell you, hey, what happened right there? And yeah, it's of course something like that. The syntax error, missing initialization declaration, is just because you use something that JavaScript doesn't know what it is. But if we use TypeScript, yeah, we know what it is. So that's nice. So once we see this already, let me take this URL to right there and copy and paste to right there. So let's back, because I prefer to give you a detailed explanation instead of just perform commands and make stuff and you don't understand what I am doing. So once we are in the terminal, remember Control-Shift-P, and you can use the create new terminal command. So we're going to install a package, well, two package called TypeScript and TSX. And yeah, as you already know, we are going to install package from npm. You already know how to look for package, stuff into the Node.js, npm package manager. So let's go to npm. Well, I'm not going to do this every time, just at the beginning, just to make it clear that, for example, we are going to install this package right there. We have TypeScript, and as you can see, we have a million of weekly downloads. We have a million of weekly downloads because it's pretty used. And yeah, that's nice. And the second one is the TSX. Or maybe if you ask it, oh, Chris, you are installing a lot of different npm packages or whatever you want, it's pretty important. And even this is the simplest way to use TypeScript, because before this, we have to use or install different tools, even, I don't know, to resolve different problems. Thanks to TSX, I don't know. Well, thanks to this package, is like we resolve like something that in the past has to be resolved for 3 more packages. So that's pretty nice. That is pretty interesting. The time that I discovered this tool is like, oh, this is amazing, because it helped me to resolve a lot of different necessities that in that time I need to install like 3 more packages, 3 more packages. So yeah, we only need these 2 ones. I'm not going to share the link because it's pretty easy to find this. And maybe something that I highly recommend is use it with a new flag. Remember, first of all, remember, we are programmers, we are lazy programmers, so we prefer to use I instead the whole install word. And after that, we are going to use a flag. Maybe if you are not familiar what a flag is, it's just like a extra parameter that we give to the we give to the command to execute a specific operation. Maybe the standard way is just like without parameters, but maybe you want to execute a different operation, you need an extra flag. And the flag are used with the hyphen character and the letter itself. In this case, I'm going to use the letter uppercase D. What does this mean? It's just like for developer, the developer dependency. This is important, not right now, but this is something important in the future, because the developer dependencies are not installed in production builds or maybe in production bundles. When you have ready your application and you move onto a production server, you need to install the packages, and thanks to this flag, we are not to install this extension, because I already told you this extension will be used for developing a stage. But once we go to the production stage, we are no longer use this one, because it's just like for us to improve us developer experience. And maybe if you need or you want to write a lot, you can use double hyphen and use that. It's the same thing. You can use this one or the short one. Remember, we are lazy and we are going to use the shortest way possible. So let's install this, and after that we are going to see what's how the package.json looks like. So go to the package.json, and as you can see, we have two sections just right there. I don't know if it's necessary increase the zoom. Well, it's a lot. I think with this is enough. And as you can see, we have two sections, dependencies. Well, we have a lot of sections. Maybe if you need information, I'm going to explain in the following episode. But as you can see, well, I'm going to take note about it because I used to forget things. So package.json. So that's nice. And go back, and in these two sections we have the dependencies, the build dependencies, and the developer or dev dependencies. And yeah, I already told you what's the purpose. This dependency will be installed and used in a production environment, and this one only will be used on maybe an developing environment. But both extension will be installed using npm install. So this command won't be used in the production stage. So don't worry. In the future, we are going to see what's the command to install just the dependencies. Just the dependencies for the build. And well, go back to Next.js and maybe, and let's configure TypeScript using npx tss. Thanks to the TypeScript package, we have another one called TSS. Maybe if you don't believe on me, let's look for again TypeScript npm. Go just right there, and maybe, well, we don't have dependencies, but well, that's the reason why we don't install TSX, because npx allows to execute a package from npm without install them. In some scenarios, this is useful. In this case, it's useful because we don't need this tool all the time. We only need this tool just for create or perform a specific tag. In this case, we are going to create a configuration file. So yeah, that's the reason why we are not going to install this in the complete way. And we are going to execute this param. We wait some seconds, and as you can see, we have a prompt that give us, hey, you already have create a new test-config.json with the following configuration, but this configuration we are not going to use this configuration. But as you can see, we have a new file, and in this file, we are going to add some extra configuration. There are a lot of information that maybe we can create a specific TypeScript course to get in each one. But I'm going to simplify this process. But maybe if you don't want to use TypeScript, and I'm going to use the following configuration. Give me a sec. So here we go. We have in comparator option, we are going to use a specific version from TypeScript because each year a new JavaScript version is released. In this case, well, we are going to use the 2020 version because it may be the one of the, in my personal opinion, stable. But maybe if we need extra tools, we can increase this version just right there. As you can see, we have even the current year 2024. But if for maybe stability things, I am going to use this one. Maybe the module and module resolution just depends in the way that we can export and import packages. So in this case, like the better one, we're going to use the strict option because we are using a TypeScript, of course. We're going to use the smodule interop, just like some, maybe to give compatibility to some packages. This is not, well, it's just like some comparison, doesn't matter. This is important one because once we compile the TypeScript code, we are going to say that code in the dist folder, and the root directory where we are going to save the TypeScript code will be stored on the source source directory. We are going to use declaration and maybe the source map. I don't know if it useful at all. I'm going to include them. Well, I'm going to maybe remove for a while, and after maybe I can turn on again. And maybe we are going to exclude the source file. Choose like to, and I am going to include. I'm sorry, I'm going to include the source because the source file because it's where the code will be stored. I'm going to exclude the node modules and this because it's just like checks or comparison. Is like where I am going to omit these two ones because are not necessary. And that's it. We have the TypeScript config. And maybe if we create or change this package, we can even change this and doesn't bad will happen. So we're going to change TypeScript. And as you can see, well, we see some warnings, but don't worry, it will be stabilized. I'm going to remove this one on maybe, well, I'm going to just cut the video just right there because it's a pretty long video. And maybe in the following episode, I'm going to show you maybe how to adapt this code and maybe share the same base code. So don't worry about it. I promise this code, as you can see, works in JavaScript and also works in TypeScript. If you see errors, it's because we need some extra tools just for developing environment. So don't worry, and we are going to cover that in the following episode. So I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next time. Remember, we're not going to load the code yet, just when we already done the configuration. So yeah, see you. Bye bye.